With us is Aaron Dorr of the Missouri Firearms Coalition. Thanks for joining us, Aaron.
Good morning, Eric. How you doing?
I'm doing great. For the folks that are not familiar, please let us know who is the Missouri Firearms Coalition?
The Missouri Firearms Coalition is a group of gun rights members from across the state who are dedicated to defending our gun rights in Jefferson City. I think for a lot of people, it could be easy to assume that this is a red state and our gun rights are always going to be secure. But as a lot of folks in other states have found out just over the last 5 to 10 years, that's just not the case. We have got to stand up and fight to defend our gun rights, expand our gun rights where we can, and send a message at election time to those lawmakers who oppose our gun rights. And that's what we do here every day at the Missouri Firearms Coalition.
Yeah, you guys have been very effective. I know that when people talk to me about how did you pass constitutional carry, how did you pass stand your ground, how did you pass the Castle Doctrine extension, all of those things you guys were in the thick of the fight. We just had the Missouri Republican Assembly on, and they were a part of that fight as well. But I would say without groups like you and the MRA, we would not have constitutional carry today.
Well, yeah, a lot of things that are passed in Jefferson City, some of the more meaningless resolutions or some of the small things don't require any outside pressure. But if you're going to pass a major, freedom type issue in the space of the Second Amendment, that doesn't happen on its own. There is no natural momentum in Jeff City, absent a few of the best people that we have in office, to push gun rights. That requires pressure from gun owners across the state, and that's what we do, again, is to put that pressure via our members on the legislature and remind them that if they're not going to defend our gun rights, our members will find somebody else who will.
Yeah, and how did you come about getting to that point? Because I know that the left criticizes you guys a lot for being too aggressive, but how did you come about the place where you decided to, in my opinion, handle elected officials, handle politicians, handle the process differently than other groups?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, most lobby organizations and most lobbyists, their standard business practice is to become best friends, everybody in the legislature, and then kind of hope that friendship pays dividends when their bill is up for a vote, and that works okay if you have a non-controversial issue. But the Second Amendment is anything but non-controversial. And so when you're dealing with bills like this, most lawmakers would prefer just to take no action. If they don't have to vote on a gun bill either direction, then they're not going to get in trouble with anybody back home. And so our starting point is that, well, it's not personal at all. We have to be a confrontational-based organization in our philosophy, because if we do not do that, then we're going to get what Missouri had for a very long time before we got in the scene, which was nothing. And if we allow our gun rights to more or less be dictated by out-of-state organizations that they might, fly a guy in here for a couple of days here and there, then we're going to get, like I said, nothing. And that's why once we got organized here in Missouri, and of course with you leading the battle for so many years in the House and the Senate, Missouri has gone way conservative when it comes to gun rights. You mentioned constitutional carry, stand your ground law, Castle Doctrine expansion, lifetime carry permits, of course the big one, 2021's SAPA legislation. These things only happen because there are organizations like ours on the ground and members like the ones that we have all across the state who are willing to push hard, even if that means hurting some feelings in Jeff City.
Yeah, and I think that as a lawmaker, it was interesting to see how you guys operate, and I think other lawmakers, politicians, were not used to that. They're not used to a group what they are used to is everyone glad handing them, everyone saying what they want to hear, everyone wanting to become friends with them, trying to woo them over. And that's not at all your strategy, and that's I think it's why you're effective. But it is definitely different. It's a definitely different strategy.
Yeah, well, and again, it's intentional and it's not personal. We're not, we don't walk into Jeff City every day with, with a desire to harass or insult as many people as possible. But again, you do not move gun bills in Missouri right now, and you never have been able to move gun bills in Missouri right now without bringing extreme pressure on, especially leadership, but a lot of rank and file members. And we have Republicans right now in Jeff City who are openly talking about things like red flag gun seizures. So if we sit back and grind our hands together and hope for the best and just kind of like we're afraid to speak up, we're going to watch our gun rights eroded here in Missouri. Maybe not today, maybe not in 2024. But that will happen. That is a story of so many other states around us where the gun owner vote sat back, hoped for the best, assumed the best, and they lost their freedoms. So that's not going to happen under our watch, and we certainly do not mind having some angry politicians at us because that is our job.
Yeah, you're not trying to get elected by the politicians. You're just trying to hold their feet to the fire, and I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome. What's funny to me is whenever I hear from conservatives who, I'm thinking of one in particular, who was upset at the level of activity that you guys were sending to support the issue, to support what you would think that they would welcome. They would welcome all the emails, welcome the phone calls. I welcome them because I consider them an encouragement of what I'm doing. We always get phone calls from the left. We always get phone calls from people that are mad at our policies. But for once, you're getting a group that is pro Second Amendment that's actually being aggressive and reaching out.
Well, I tell my kids all the time, they ask me, well, whose job is it to keep America on the right track? My daughter last night heading home from church, she asked me, whose fault was it that this bad thing happened or that bad thing happened? I always tell my kids that it's all of our responsibility. It's not just the legislature. It's not just the courts, not just the executive branch. It is every single Missourian, every single American's responsibility to safeguard the freedoms that we have. Ben Franklin, I think it was, said that when asked what kind of a government do we have, he said, a republic, sir, if you can keep it. And these rights do not exist in a vacuum. We are either gaining ground or we are losing ground when it comes to all of our freedoms, gun rights included, both here in Missouri and in Washington, D.C. And so we're always adopted that approach that it's our job to flood the legislature with grassroots pressure in support of good bills and obviously to oppose bad bills. And we make no apologies for it. I wish we could do more. I wish we could fire off more emails into various lawmakers' inboxes, and we try and grow that organization every day.
And Aaron, tell us a little bit about some of the success stories that you guys have had outside of policy as well. Like we know that you were helpful in getting constitutional carry. Kind of walk us through for example, that effort and what you guys specifically did that is so unique.
Yeah, well, it's one thing to get a bill drafted, and of course, having a guy like you in Jeff City made that process very simple. It's one thing to get a bill drafted, and maybe you get a hearing in one of the committees, but to get a bill all the way to the governor's desk and to have the governor sign it, of course, when it comes to constitutional carry, then Governor Nixon, of course, did not sign it. We had to go to the veto override session. That is just going to take relentless pressure, and it's not enough for one lobbyist to walk in there and tell the lawmakers why they should support this. Anybody who hates gun rights in Missouri or anywhere in this country, they know exactly what the issue is. It's not a lack of education. They're not just confused. They want to disarm all of us, pure and simple. Mm-hmm. And so our starting approach is always that, we'll walk in there, we'll meet with anybody. I've met with everybody in Jeff City twice, the way it seems, over the last 10 or 15 years working for the Missouri Firearms Coalition. We'll talk to anybody and everybody, and if they have any legitimate questions about the bill, we'll answer those questions. But at the end of the day, the bulk of our focus is on mobilizing gun owners in their districts with phone calls, with text messages, with emails, and urging them to flood the legislature with that pressure. It's professional, but it's direct.
And it works in an environment like Missouri. In Missouri, because there's so many ways to kill a bill. And especially to do it without your fingerprints, to do it in the dark of night, to do it behind closed doors. But your methodology is one in which you're not going to tolerate a loss. So you're putting the pressure on the chairman, for example, when a bill goes to the committee and it's signed to that chairman, the pressure, your organization is saying, we expect this bill to have a hearing, and then if we don't have a hearing by a certain time, you're going to hear from our members. And then the expectation is we expect it voted out and sent to the floor. And if that doesn't happen, then you're going to hear from our members. And that is a very different dynamic, especially in Jefferson City.
Yeah, our basic philosophy is, to our members, we always tell them we cannot guarantee an outcome, but we can guarantee there's going to be a fight. And if we lose, for a cycle or lose a fight here or there, we can promise that we're going to make the legislators who did that, who are responsible, pay for every inch of ground they took. And we have extremely long memories at the Missouri Firearms Coalition. So you might betray gun rights. You might betray gun rights in 2016, but when the opportunity comes and you're in a hot primary in 2024, and we have the opportunity to remind gun owners of what you did to their gun rights 6, 7, 8 years ago, we relish the opportunity to do that. And we send that message every 2 years, especially at election time, that if you will not fight for gun rights, our members will find somebody else who will. And it's a simple message, but it resonates because this is Missouri, and people expect the legislature to fight for gun rights. And everybody campaigns on being pro-gun at election time, but very few people go to Jeff City and want to fight to advance those gun rights when the pressure mounts and when it really counts. And we love to make sure everyone knows who is our friend and who are our enemies in Jeff City.
Okay, thank you. When we come back, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, I want to hear more about the Missouri Firearms Coalition, how folks can get involved, and what are the current fights happening in Jefferson City. You're listening to The Gary Nolan Show on the Zimmer Radio Network. Welcome back to The Gary Nolan Show on the Zimmer Radio Network. This is Eric Burlison filling in for Gary Nolan. With me today is Aaron Dorr with the Missouri Firearms Coalition. And Aaron, we were talking about the successes that you guys have had. Tell us about the political successes, the primaries that you guys get involved with, because that is also unique.
Well, yeah, it's a red state, and so sometimes people will ask us, well, why do you guys focus so much on the primaries when at the general election it's those darn Democrats? Well, that's just not the facts. Obviously, here in Missouri, the Democrats have very little power in Jeff City, and they can definitely do some filibuster work in the Senate and things like that. But at the end of the day, a bill gets to the floor or does not. A bill moves out of committee or does not, based on the will of Republicans in Jefferson City, not the Democrats. And so while we do definitely focus on some of the general elections in the fall every 2 years, the bulk of our firepower is reserved for the primaries. If we cannot police our own, why bother trying to police the Democrats? And so we have had incredible success in state Senate races, state House races, and some statewide races just in 2022, because again, the gun voter electorate is highly mobilized, they're highly organized, and because we work so hard to accomplish those things, when we tell them where a candidate stands, our members take action. And we obviously will highlight a candidate's record if they have been in office before. We'll also highlight how they answer our candidate survey, if they do or do not, as sometimes is the case, want to fill it out. And we're going to make sure everyone knows where these candidates stand.
Yeah, and I think that what's great about your organization is that you're not going to tolerate candidates who are trying to hide their votes or be apathetic behind closed doors. Let bills die. Those kind of candidates, usually there's never a punishment for that, but not so with the Missouri Firearms Coalition. You guys don't let anybody off when it comes to the primaries.
Well, it's just too important. This is not just about public policy. If we lose our gun rights, we lose everything else. And everyone knows that deep down. But I think what we've experienced over the last couple of years with Biden in the White House is a very real reality that's kind of come to into most people's minds, is that these people are serious. They do want to absolutely disarm us. They want to make us like every other country on earth where we the people are helpless against an all-powerful government. So this is not just a job. It's not just, an academic argument in some committee hearing in the basement of the Capitol in Jefferson City. If we lose our gun rights, there is no getting them back. I have never seen a country ever in history that took away gun rights from their citizens and then were forced to somehow give them back. Maybe I'm wrong. If I am, hopefully someone can call into the show and educate us. But this is for all the marbles. And if America loses that option to defend ourselves against tyrants, there is no coming back from that. And so for us, it is very serious. We're very willing to engage in the primaries. We love to do that. And it's put us in a great position for fights that we hope to engage in next session.
Yeah, I know that whenever some candidates will see that video, the Aaron Dorr whiteboard video, where you line up the different candidates in a primary and tell the people back home exactly where this person is, publicly or behind the scenes. Oh man, some candidates love it, and some they dread it.
Well, we've gotten our death threats, and we've gotten all kinds of threats, and we've gotten, various types of bribes to pull our videos down. And again, at the end of the day, every candidate who thinks they can motivate us that way forgets the fact that at the end of the day, this is about much more than me. It's about much more, even than Missouri. It's about safeguarding freedom for our grandchildren. And I don't have any grandkids yet. I've got 7 kids, but no grandkids yet. And that's why I think all of us, that's why you did this when you were in the legislature, was to defend freedom for your daughters and for your grandkids down the road. So this is far deeper than just some thing that can be scared away or bribed away. No, we're going to fight. We're going to win. We're going to keep it up, and we're not going to stop. We have big fights coming up next session. Missouri has has some gaps in our standard ground law, and we're going to fix that. We must fix that, or we're going to have more people who are wrongfully arrested for no reason. We have a real problem right now with red flag gun seizures. They are quietly making progress here in Jefferson City. We have got to ban red flags. And of course, as your audience knows, if we don't deal with IP reform, much of what we have passed will count for little if the out-of-state interests can come in here and spend tens of millions of dollars and try to put gun control into our state constitution. So there's really big fights coming up next year. And of course, anybody who wants to join us in that fight, hit our website. It's MissouriFirearmsCoalition.org and get signed up as a member today.
MissouriFirearmsCoalition.org. Thank you, Aaron. I was going to ask you to plug that. You guys were very helpful for me in passing the Second Amendment Preservation Act, which has really placed you at the forefront nationally on this topic. It made 60 Minutes. This is what people are talking about in the Second Amendment community. Now, sadly, I'm not serving in the Missouri legislature anymore, but and I'm fighting doing what I can on the federal level to try to repeal the National Firearms Act and other things. But so in this coming session, you're going to be working on gun-free zones, the stand your ground law, and others.
Yep, there's a lot going on. And again, Congressman, thank you for being the lead sponsor. You mentioned your bill briefly, but for the audience, you're the lead sponsor on H.R. 450. This would repeal the NFA Act. Most people know the NFA Act is what Biden has used to attack our gun rights through the bureaucracy. They can just simply change the words in the NFA Act and ban pistol braces and bump stocks. And your bill, which has a growing amount of support from people in the Congress, is a great effort to fight back against that.
Well, thank you, Aaron, and I encourage folks to join the Missouri Firearms Coalition. Thank you for everything you do. You're listening to the Gary Nolan Show on the Zimmer Radio Network.
Show.